Hello, I'm Javlon Vakhabov, and here are our top news for today. At the invitation of Recep Tayyip Erdogan, President Shavkat Mirziyoyev arrived in Turkey. First International Aviation Forum has kicked off in Tashkent. The hotel Chorsu, which has been idle for almost 2 decades, has finally gone under hammer. As the invitation of Recep Tayyip Erdogan, President Shavkat Mirziyoyev arrived in Turkey on February 19th. The members of the Turkish government, heads of the province and city of Ankara, as well as other officials, met Mirziyoyev at the Uzbekistan airport. The visit agenda, among others, includes the meeting of top-level Strategic Cooperation Council, and here are the details of his visit.
Upon arrival, Shavkat Mirziyoyev visited the Anıtkabir Memorial Complex in Ankara and later arrived at the burial site of Mustafa Kemal Atatürk. Mustafa Kemal was a great statesman. He was the leader of national liberation struggle in Turkey, which was divided and occupied after the First World War. In 1923, he declared the country's independence, founded the Republic of Turkey, and became its first president. His reforms in politics, social and cultural life determined the further development of the country. In 1934, a parliamentary law gave him the surname Atatürk, which means father of the Turks. The official meeting took place at Presidential Palace in Ankara. As national anthems of both countries were played, Mirziyoyev and Erdogan bypassed the guard of honor. In the framework of a narrow format meeting, the parties discussed further expansion of Uzbek-Turkish cooperation, primarily in the political, trade, economic, cultural and humanitarian spheres. According to the President, regular meetings of the Intergovernmental Commission on Trade and Economic Cooperation contribute to promoting and implementing new projects and programs. They underline the importance of expanding transport links and establishing multimodal international transport to Europe via Turkey. The parties discussed cooperation in the field of horticulture, fish farming, animal husbandry and breeding, and conducting joint research with the participation of universities and research centers of the two countries. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan welcomed Mirziyoyev at the first meeting of the Uzbek-Turkish High-Level Strategic Cooperation Council. The Turkish president expressed satisfaction with the strengthening of interaction between the parliaments, state organizations and business circles of the two countries. He said that he fully supports joint projects between Turkey and Uzbekistan. President Shavkat Mirziyoyev expressed gratitude to his counterpart and the people of Turkey for the hospitality and great respect for the delegation of our country. The parties reaffirmed that all conditions are created to expand the cooperation to a high level. The meeting saw trade ministers of Uzbekistan and Turkey who provided detailed information on the state of bilateral cooperation. Shavkat Mirziyoyev invited Recep Tayyip Erdogan to Uzbekistan to hold a regular meeting of the Strategic Cooperation Council. As negotiations have finished, the two presidents inked a joint statement on the results of the first meeting of the Strategic Cooperation Council. A number of documents on cooperation in trade, economy and technology were also signed. Speaking at a joint news conference, Tayyip Erdogan said that the parties have exceeded $1 billion in both exports and imports for the first time in bilateral trade relations, but there is still a long way to go. We define our relations with Uzbekistan as strategic partnership based on strong brotherly ties with our common history, language and culture, Erdogan added. He said that Turkey is witnessing with the appreciation reforms in Uzbekistan under the leadership of Mirziyoyev and added that Turkey is always ready to to extend the support to Uzbekistan in the comprehensive reform process. The Turkish president said Uzbekistan has taken firm steps towards becoming a center of attraction in its region, with its young and dynamic population approaching 34 million, rich natural resources, industrial potential and strong agricultural production. We encourage our entrepreneurs to invest in Uzbekistan. According to Uzbek statistics, only last year, 430 Turkish companies started operating in Uzbekistan, and the number of our companies rose to 1,306, Erdogan said. Mirziyoyev, for his part, said the first meeting of the high-level Strategic Council opened a new page in the history of both countries' friendly relations. He said improving cooperation in commercial, economic and investment fields is the Turkish and Uzbekistan's primary task.
Tashkent is hosting the first international aviation forum attended by 180 companies and industry professionals from around the world. What are the major changes we can expect in the local aviation and transport sector? Our correspondent has the story.
The forum was opened by the Deputy Prime Minister, Chairman of the State Committee of Uzbekistan for the Development of Tourism, Aziz Abduhakimov. He emphasized that tourism and the development of transport communications and air routes is a strategic priority in Uzbekistan. One of the reasons for holding this forum is the need for active cooperation with our partners in the aviation sector. We hope that within the framework of today's forum, you will be able to witness the real situation in our country and see the prospects of the tourism and aviation markets. Minister of Transport Elyor Ganiyev also spoke about the work being done to increase the flow of tourists and improve the transport system. We hope that during today's meetings and negotiations with our partners, we will be able to reach agreement on the creation of foreign airlines with the status of a resident of the Republic of Uzbekistan. We will also work to attract more airlines that fly to Uzbekistan. For this purpose, the basic airport charges at all regional airports were cut by at least 20%. Over the past periods, new airlines such as Air Aero, Fly Dubai and Zagros Airlines launched regular flights to Uzbekistan. Other airlines are expected to join this list. I think that the forum will in many respects contribute to even greater development of Uzbekistan. Today, we presented the Al Hidayah Uzbekistan company, which will work to attract more foreign tourists to your country. Our primary goal is to bring about 3 million tourists a year to Uzbekistan, thereby contributing to its economic development. Our airline has already prepared large aircraft with a capacity of 385 seats, which will be intended for pilgrimage tourism. We are already working on the presentation of the tour potential of Uzbekistan in countries such as Indonesia, Bangladesh and Pakistan. Apart from large planes, smaller aircrafts were also presented in the forum. We've been working in the CIS countries for several years. We sell turbopropeller airplanes to both state-owned and small enterprises, and have consolidated our positions in Kazakhstan quite seriously. And now we continue fruitful cooperation with government agencies in the provision of services and aircraft management in the CIS and the Russian Federation. One of the companies included in our group is the official dealer of the Swiss aircraft manufacturer Pilatus Aircraft, and we are here to introduce the Uzbek public to this aircraft, since we consider it the most promising in the Uzbek market. Representatives of domestic aviation spoke about their future plans. We are currently working to optimize transportation costs by optimizing our domestic costs. This year, we are planning to supply new modern jumbo jets, which will help to lower their aircraft costs due to reduced fuel consumption. And we have several innovations planned for this year. In particular, we will be introducing new design of our flight attendant uniform and also some new online products. Our passengers will be able to see it all within this year. The majority of regional airports are expected to be renovated in the nearest future. The Samarkand airport is currently being reconstructed. The construction of a new airport terminal, runway and parking for aircraft is underway, which we believe will increase passenger flow and provide comfort conditions for all passengers and tourists. We are expecting to finish the reconstruction and resume the full-fledged operation of Samarkand airport by the early next year. As a result of the construction of a new passenger terminal and runway at Samarkand International Airport, the capacity will be increased to handle 1,500 passengers per hour. As a result of the construction of a new passenger terminal and runway at Samarkand International Airport, the capacity will be increased to handle 1,500 passengers per hour. The Termez and Andijan airports will be able to serve all types of aircrafts, and the number of flights will double. Plenary meetings, negotiations and B2B meetings are also included in the forum agenda.
Earlier, we reported about quarantined Uzbek citizens who were placed at Bustan Sanatorium. So yesterday, all passengers of the flight that arrived 2 weeks ago from the city of Wuhan have been discharged from the hospital to return their homes.
A total of 584 of citizens were evacuated from the cities of Beijing and Wuhan on the charter flights organized as the initiative of the President of Uzbekistan. None of the passengers have been infected, according to lab tests. Among the evacuated people, there were also 5 citizens of Kazakhstan. According to Chingiz Isabekov, he lives in Almaty. He worked in Wuhan for a while. On February 5th, he arrived in Tashkent on a charter flight. Chingiz expressed gratitude to all those who provided professional, medical and psychological support to him and all passengers during the 14-day quarantine. Finally, all worries are over. Everyone is in a good mood since relatives and friends were waiting for them at home.
The Senate and the Legislative Chamber of Oli Majlis organized an international forum devoted to the role of Parliament and democratic reforms. The National Movement Yükseliş and representatives of Konrad Adenauer Foundation in Central Asia were co-organizers of the event.
Speaker of the Senate, Tanzila Narbayeva, in her address, spoke about reforms underway in Uzbekistan. In her opinion, the principles of openness and transparency in the society require improving the efficiency of government agencies, and the reforms should, above all, benefit the people. And in this process, it's imperative to increase the responsibility of executive bodies. To implement an effective mechanism of dialogue between all senators and the people, senators have established interaction with all local executive bodies. A training is organized both for senators and deputies so that they could work together towards a common goal. Another speaker at the meeting was head of the Central Asian office of the Konrad Adenauer Foundation, Ronnie Hain. I'd like to express my gratitude to the Parliament and the National Movement Yükseliş for organizing such an important event. Uzbekistan is a strategically important country in Central Asia. I think that these democratic reforms will contribute to the further development of Uzbekistan, the implementation of constructive foreign policy and the liberalization of its economy. And the opinions of the parliamentarians, foreign experts and the government representatives are very important in today's negotiations. The Women's Committee, the National Movement Yükseliş and the Konrad Adenauer Foundation inked a memorandum of understanding on the sidelines of the event. The main goal of the document is to ensure the fulfillment of the task outlined in the address of President Mirziyoyev.
The Chorsu hotel, which has been idle for almost 2 decades, has finally gone under hammer in the hands of another owner, a company from the United Emirates. More about it in the next report.
The Hotel Chorsu is one of the symbols of the capital. The building was built back in 1982. Having operated for about 20 years, the hotel has been idle for many years. In mid-February this year, after an auction that lasted about 10 hours, the hotel passed into the ownership of Arab company Ittihad International Investment LLC for almost 17 billion sums. The new hotel owner is committed to invest at least $25 million over the 2 years and create 150 jobs. Another mandatory obligation is that new hotel must have at least 3 stars.
Multiple shootings in Germany left several people dead in Hanau, a city outside Frankfurt. Police say the gunman suspected of killing them has been found dead in his home hours later on Thursday. They also say a second body was found at the home. Authorities said on Twitter there was no indication any other suspects were involved. It also says the investigation is ongoing. The suspects had opened fire at 2 shisha bars in the city. Special forces chased the gunmen, who fled in a dark-colored car. Eyewitnesses described the chaos that followed.
I got a call from a colleague that there'd been a shooting attack here at the kiosk, and so I came straight here. Then I heard my father was affected, and my little brother. They run the kiosk. I don't have much to do with it. But then I saw them both. They were horrified, and they were crying and everything. So everyone was shocked, yes.
The motive for the shootings is still unclear. Authorities have set up a hotline for the public to report information that could aid the police. It comes just 4 days after a shooting at a Berlin concert venue where 1 person was killed and several others were injured.
A lawyer for WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange says he was offered a US pardon on behalf of President Donald Trump. A London court heard Wednesday. That pardon hangs off the condition Assange must deny Russian hacking, specifically that Moscow helped leak emails from the Democratic Party in 2016. That leak is the one that damaged Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. US intelligence agencies have concluded it was part of a wider Russian effort to try to help Trump win. Moscow has denied meddling, and Trump denied any campaign collusion. Mention of a pardon came during a hearing over a US request to have Assange extradited on charges under the Espionage Act. Assange's lawyer says former US Congressman Dana Robichaud offered him the pardon in 2017, saying he'd been sent by the president. White House spokeswoman Stephanie Grisham denied the lawyer's claims, saying Trump barely knows the congressman in question. Assange is wanted in the United States on 18 counts, including conspiring to hack government computers and violating an espionage law. He made global headlines when WikiLeaks published classified US video showing a Baghdad helicopter attack that killed 12 people, including 2 Reuters news staff. He spent 7 years holed up in Ecuador's London embassy before he was dragged out last April. Assange could spend decades behind bars if he is convicted.
But I want to thank Devin for being an incredible warrior, and likewise, Kevin McCarthy. Who I think we can say, we have to work hard. We can pick up 7 seats in the state of California. He said, get rid of Pelosi. That's okay with me. And you have to know that this meeting, Kevin was just saying, was set up long before Devin and Kevin set it up, long before we heard that Mini Mike hates the farmer. Long before we learned about his hatred of the farmer, disrespect of the farmer. So I don't know. I don't think he's going to be the candidate anyway, to be honest with you. We'll have to start working on Crazy Bernie pretty soon.
These were the latest news for today. Goodbye.